Hello, everybody. Today is Friday, January 17th. This is Kops Office Hours. I am your moderator facilitator, Justin Santa Barbara. I work at Google. A reminder that this meeting is being recorded, will be put on the internet, and is also subject to our Kubernetes Code of Conduct, which boils down to please be a good person, respectful of others. We have an agenda, the link to which is in the calendar invite, and I will paste it into our chat. There is a fairly large amount of, or fairly large number of things on there. So please, if you do want to discuss something, please be sure to add it to the agenda so we have time to get to it. I think, yeah, why don't we just dive right in? I have the first item on the agenda, which is hopefully not too controversial. As we talked about last week, we had some releases that were planned. I didn't get through all of them, but I think we can discuss them. But I did manage to do, well, basically as the time ticks closer to this meeting, I'm like, well, there's no point in doing one in the dying hours of the thing before talking to everybody. But I did push up some AMIs, which was interesting because it found an issue or two, and also highlighted the fact that we aren't using Debian Buster yet, which is the latest. We are still using Stretch, which I don't recall exactly when it goes out of support, but it's not too long. The nice things about, there was a blocker to using Buster in terms of IP tables. That should have been fixed as of Kubernetes 1.17. I don't know if anyone has formally tested that, but or is actually running.
I tested that.
And how is it?
Quite extensively. The problem is the CNI drivers, plugins. Those really suck for Buster. Some started adopting the same logic as Kubernetes on auto-detect. But because Buster guys decided to put both old and new IP tables, some things decide to use NFT, some things decide, I mean, for example, Calico is not working very well. And this is, I think, the main blocker.
Okay, that's super a good point, and thank you for that like real world experience as well. I think what I can do is I can build a sort of the same way as when we went from Jesse to Stretch. We had a period where we were building both images, and so users can just change the word. Well, in the past it was Jesse to the word Stretch, and then now it will be they will change the word Stretch to the word Buster, and they'll be able to choose to use the Buster image, the Buster AMI. It sounds like we can't, or we shouldn't move the default until we've resolved most of the CNI, or like the vast majority of the CNI issues. So it feels like it's unlikely to happen in 1.17, but we'll see. Or for Kops 1.17, but we can see. But we can at least have it as an option for people that are running a CNI that is compatible with, well, the one that's installed by default is EB tables. No, I mean that. I mean NF tables.
No?
Sorry, NF tables. Yes. And so any CNI that, or the CNIs that either use NF tables or have the sort of auto detection mode will just work. And then we can sort of see what happens, whether we should do more. I don't know if that sounds like a reasonable approach, but essentially creating an image and making it optional. So parallel to our Stretch image for a period of time until things resolve themselves.
Yeah, I think it's not on us. It's mostly on them to start using NFT.
Yeah, or the same auto switch behavior, which is in kubeproxy now.
So I was looking at PRs. Weave is doing that, but they didn't release it yet. Calico has NFT, but is behind the switch. So you actually have to know about it to make it work. I think there are some that shouldn't require IP tables at all.
Yes, that's true. Yeah, so, like I don't know if Cilium does or not, for example.
Yeah. So it depends on how you want to approach it. I think 117 as the default may be a bit unrealistic,
I think so,
but
basically.
depends on when it will be, by the way, because I didn't figure out the release schedule yet.
I think we would probably, yeah, we have not decided that formally. We're trying to get much closer. We never want to, well, we don't have as a goal that we want to release at the same time as Kubernetes, because we want the sort of ecosystem to be stable, but we would like to get as close as we can to that where everything is working. So that could be around now. Like, it's not realistic, except that I don't think everything is working with 117. Or I don't think we can confidently say that yet.
So basically we would target ideally something 0.2 version.
Around that that's sort of typically how it's been, but we can sort of see how it goes. Like sometimes like there'll be 2 patch releases like very quickly, right?
Well,
So
let's say then 3 months difference, because they kind of have a more strict schedule.
okay. Anyway, I think we want to get there. We're still in, I think, catch-up mode. And I think John, you have the next item on the agenda, which we can come to in a second, which is like progressing on the catching up. And then we can sort of, I feel like we don't yet have to worry about releasing too early, because we're not yet in that boat. But yes, it will certainly be, we don't yet have, we've established a deprecation policy, and we are catching up. We have not yet established a how soon is too soon policy.
I was asking because it may, me and the Peter were thinking about adding tests for each network plugin in periodics. So then we will see which one works and which one doesn't. I would say that 1.17 is a bit like 1 month or 2 months away.
I think that sounds all right.
So it may be that we are able to set it as a default and say, hey, if there is one network plugin that doesn't work, we can add an exception or something.
The other thing is, I feel like from a release sort of stability point of view, we should have a release which has them optional, right? So people can like try it and say, oh, this didn't work because of thing I wasn't expecting, rather than like switching with no going back, as it were. Well, it doesn't matter. We can still like just change the default and still have a way to go back. But anyway,
I get it. So you want to allow it in 117 because then everything, let's say, was fixed by Kubernetes. Before that, doesn't make sense to have Buster, let's say. And then let's say 1.8 to see if it makes sense to be default.
That would make me, I would be comfortable with that. I think, yeah, that to me feels reasonable.
Makes sense.
Great, thank you. Should we, okay, so shall we carry on? John, getting 116 to beta and is currently alpha 2, if my memory serves.
Yeah, well, yeah, and before this morning, there hasn't been a lot of progress. It's like 3 things landed in the last 2 weeks. So some of them are PRs that are destined for 116, but haven't even gotten a master yet. So, so I'm thinking those are 8248, 8200. Are we okay on the approach we've gotten for dealing with priority classes of flipping the feature switch on for the old versions?
I did have a look at this. I thought it would be cleaner not to switch it on, but I don't know I can't remember. Was it who fixed that? Was that you, Hackman, that had the PR to do that?
Yeah. One tiny thing. After your PR to fix generically empty manifests,
yes,
110 and 111 started working.
Yes.
So right now, the only thing that's affected by pod priority is 1.9.
Yes, which I think tallies with what John saw, if I serve correctly,
Yeah,
if I remember.
Yeah.
And my fix was your fix. So you fixed it. You found the issue and fixed it, which was that we have this empty block. And I was like, we should stop that ever happening again. So my one sort of like just sort of catches it and shoves it under the carpet.
Yeah.
And you like actually fixed it. So if we merge your fix, that also fixes it. But yeah, so it's only 1.9.
I can make the pod priority to be applied to only 1.9 right now.
Well, remember, we technically support 1.8 in 16 and 17. Unless we don't.
Is it already broken? It's been broken. Oh, it was only broken in one. When did we break it? I guess is the question. 1.15?
1.15.
But I think the empty manifest is much older.
Do we have any complaints?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Then
If that's the case, we just change our deprecation policy.
I don't want to do that. Okay. Exactly. Round. The argument would be, I think, that it's not a new regression, so we don't want to go and change behavior, which would also be a regression, which would also be like a violation of our policies. So, given a series of unfortunate choices, we do nothing.
Okay.
So in that case, we should announce that 1.9 is not supported as of 1.16.
We should say yes. That 1.9 we know does not. Yes, we should say that, and we should put it in as like, if this is causing you immense pain, please let us know, and then we can actually like maybe flesh out some more people that want to do that weird, such a big skew.
Okay, then we should probably change the policy for 1.18 to also take out 1.9.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe.
And then I take it then there's no blocker to 8200.
Correct. Well, 8200 is only blocked on. Would work fine on 110. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can just remove the pod priority and we can merge that tiny thing, right? Not sure if it's needed though.
Yes. Oh, yes. And actually, that's a great point. We can say the workaround is for 1.9, you have to specify the priority class name.
Okay.
Not the product. Help me out.
Yeah.
Flag.
The flag. Yeah.
We can put it in the release notes, something.
Yes, that feels reasonable.
Okay.
But we didn't test anything older than 1.9.
Which is okay, I think. I think we have to be. I think that's okay.
Okay, one more thing. The 1.9 test is not working. I think it's somewhere there. Anyway, not sure if pod priority will fix it. I don't know if end-to-end tests still work on 1.9. So I think we will delete it from our test grid.
That feels reasonable. I feel like, I mean, you're doing it's a valiant effort, but I feel like it might not. It just simply might not work.
We tried it. I think investing work trying to fix it is not really worth it.
And we have a deprecation policy, and we are trying to narrow that window. And so I think, I think that's reasonable. And we can put in like the release notes again, like just like, although we have, in theory, this is in the deprecation window, like this is not a good idea. 1.9 is not a good idea, and it's like not currently passing EDE, for example.
Well, I think we decided it's going to be taken out of 1.18. So
yes, I can't remember the exact number, but yes, I mean, like certainly the plan is to both roll the window and narrow the.
Well, our current plan is 1.8 is dropped in 18.
Okay.
And I set 1.9 to be dropped in 19.
Yes.
But if we're having this much trouble with it, or if it doesn't work, we should probably drop it 1.9 in 1.18.
I think we can, let's talk about that more as we go forwards, but I think that's reasonable as well to start narrowing the window at the same time. If we're going to have the deprecation policy introduced in 1.17 for 10, we can say 9 in 1.18 or float that. What do you think?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch what the kind of proposal was.
I agree with you. And I think it's basically agreeing and saying that we're sort of like starting right away on shrinking the window. So 10 goes down to 9 in 1.18. 10 releases back goes down to 9 releases back in 1.18.
Oh, okay. I didn't think we're dropping 1.8 until 1.18.
I am probably
weren't dropping anything in 1.17.
I thought we were deprecating.
We deprecated it in 16, but we haven't dropped it until 18.
Okay. Okay. I am far too confused to make sense of this.
Okay.
I think we probably.
I'll make a PR.
Okay, that would be great. I think basically a combination of like, you know, here's there is a workaround for 1.9, and we really don't recommend you do it. And at some stage we cut it, and honestly I don't really mind when. I think.
Okay. Yeah. So now the core DNS CVE, I think that's destined for 1.6. And that needs to get in. That's assuming we're willing to go ahead of Kubernetes on core DNS.
We should bump, if core DNS has a CVE, we should bump core DNS regardless if people are using core DNS, right?
Yeah.
That's my feeling. So we've been running that version with Kubernetes 1.11 internally. Since that got announced, and we haven't seen any issues. I understand so I've been out of action for 3 days, so I haven't responded to any of the comments on it. I can see the argument for not jumping ahead and potentially documenting it instead, and just saying you could take advantage instead of if this attack vector worries you, you can instead override the image, since we give users the ability to specify the image tag instead. So that's the other potential way of handling it.
How bad is the CVE?
5.9, medium severity, I think. I think the maintainers seem to believe that it's fairly, in a Kubernetes environment, it is non-trivial to take advantage of. But poison DNS caches.
Yeah, it's not great. Okay. Does anyone have any strong feelings either way about updating or not updating this? Sounds like you think we should update Guy, I guess, by default.
That would be my general feeling, yeah. But I'm happy to go with the consensus here, and I can just tonight put together a 1.16 plus one and add a documentation thing. I don't know. I suspect I don't have any rights to add security stuff to the repo under the security things, but I can.
I think as long as we get some testing, I'm okay with putting it in.
I'm okay also, and I think we should make a more restricted thing of what we don't want to change in previous versions. Because saying that if you use kops 1.18 with Kubernetes 1.10 should work the same as kops 1.10, then there's no value. Either you get something extra or you just use kops 1.10.
Yeah, I mean, the point is we don't want people to like use kops 1.10. We don't have to like build all those older versions. It does fall apart a little bit on add-ons in that there is a difference between kops 1.10 and kops 1.18 when it comes to security fixes. We've always said we do security fixes. Like ideally, if core DNS had, like I see in the 1.6 manifesto used for later than 1.6 and less than 12, like we go from 131 to 166, and ideally core DNS would have a 132, right? Would have something in the 1.3 frame.
Yeah.
That is not proved to be the case in the ecosystem. So we don't have great choices here.
Yeah, but it's the same for Docker and for other things. Like they dropped support for.
Yeah, I mean, Docker has more of a, even Docker has more of a like backport policy.
Yeah,
limited,
I think core DNS is a particularly bad example for this, as it is a sort of fail forward rather than patch back.
I will say that there have been times where we've patched this before, and then people from the core DNS team have come in our repo and reverted back because they've said we should stick with what's in KK. Last year happened once. I found the PR, but I mean, this is a big enough CVE. I'm just saying that's what has happened in the past. So we're changing that. I'm okay with that, I think, in this case. I think we just need to be aware of that. That's all.
Do we know why KK has not gone to 166?
There is a pull requests kicking around for Kubernetes. 2 seconds last. Find it.
As long as there's no major blocker on that PR, I feel fine about it. I agree with, I think, what Justin's getting at here.
Yeah, let's use that as our I don't want to get too stuck, because otherwise it's not fair to air all the other things on the agenda. Let's use that as our sort of deciding factor, is look at what's going on in upstream, where there's issues there, whether like the tide is that it's going to merge maybe, and sort of follow what they're doing. Because I found one PR which was 165 from Rajan Sandeep, so who I know is like super involved in this. So I don't know whether there's a reason he did 165 versus 166.
There is a PR for 166 now, which I've pasted
into
the chat, Zoom chat.
Perfect.
I was going to say, you could just tag Raj on that PR. And see what he has to say.
Yeah, cool. I'll do that. Thanks.
Perfect. All right, thank you.
And then for the backports, now that we have the approvers expanded, I think I see movement there. So I don't think that's something that we have to talk about.
Great. Okay, and so then I guess we could add to our, if all goes to plan, we can do 116.0 beta 1 this 2-week period.
Hopefully.
Anyone think of a reason why not? All right, we have a list of blockers for that, and it seems like that is good. If anyone comes up with more blockers, please do like add it to the list of blockers. And I'm gonna start the release plan section. And while I'm doing that, John, you have the next item, which is around rolling update concurrency.
Yes. So my next PR's out there. We're really close to being able to surge. I've surged a cluster with 100%, and it was a thing of beauty. So just want to remind folks to keep that going. That's
awesome. I know you have more than one open at a time. Is there a sequence or something for those, or?
No, those two do not conflict.
Okay.
I made sure of it.
The one which labels, I think, was I had a like 5-second look at that in terms of like thinking about that. I just don't know whether we should think about whether that needs to be a Kubernetes, like, should we propose something that can be used outside of kops? Yeah, not like Kubernetes wide, like some sort of general annotation. On the other hand, we can just recognize both of them.
Yeah, I'm thinking of making the same proposal to cluster or to machine API, but with a different annotation, of course. But
yeah, yes, that's sort of where I'm going, right?
And the other thing along those lines is to think: do we want to actually have support for a maximum instance lifetime? Because that's sort of the primary use of that, but.
I don't think we should preclude it.
I don't think it precludes it. It's just, do we want to support that?
I guess if there is, so if someone wanted to build such a thing, well, I believe people have built such a thing. If someone wanted to put such a thing into kops, for example, I would ask whether it like needs to be in kops, like, or should it be like an external controller that can be like, is it tied to kops, right?
Yeah, so that's why I did that annotation, because that allows you to do the external controller.
Okay.
And still have it coordinate with kops rolling updates.
Okay, that is cool. I will take a look at that. Thank you for the sort of context there. But if we do both of your PRs, that's good. Yeah. Okay. And then a more controversial one, deprecating the V1 Alpha 1 API. And you mean deprecate or do you mean remove, John?
Well, I mean to deprecate it in 16 and then remove it in 18.
I'm certainly in favor of deprecating it. We haven't deprecated it yet, have we?
No, we have not.
Okay, we should definitely deprecate it. That's a no-brainer. The removal, I feel like we probably should be more like gradual about. Although we also have a lot of removals coming from your other deprecations, which I'm super excited to see. Like a lot of the cleanups on that are going to be great. I don't know if we sort of have to pace ourselves a little bit, maybe. I don't know, and like keep users from too much churn.
Okay, I'd be so shocked if anyone's actually still using it, but
yes. Let's definitely.
Yeah, we need a plan of when it's going to go away, so we can tell people.
If we deprecate it. So the most permissive would be we deprecate it now and we remove it in either 3 or 4 releases. I can never remember which one it is. That's the most like Kubernetes following the rules.
Well, following the rules, we could remove it immediately because it's alpha, but
that is true.
I would say that the alpha 2 is probably effectively stable, which is another conversation we can have.
That is another conversation, and we should. Well, we actually do know we want to make changes there. So like we want to make it. We would treat it as stable, and then we continue to support it. But yes, I think let's at least start by deprecating. How about that? And then
when should we say that we're removing it?
Anyone else have an opinion here?
118, the cleanup version.
You want to go for it?
Yeah.
Or do we have to say a version that we're removing it? Just say it's deprecated.
Well, we should. I think John is right that we should have a date. We can, if we announce a date, we can't move it forwards. We could. How about we compromise, deprecate in 118, remove in 119, because that gives people a chance to sort of raise their objections. What do you think, John? I'm looking
Sounds
at you.
good.
Well, I mean, it's better than nothing.
But you would rather just remove it? Yeah. We never know what people are doing, right? It's the XKCD where someone's like, we broke their workflow.
But we got 2 releases to find out.
That's true. All right, how about this? Yes, deprecate, cherry pick that back to 116, which we haven't released yet. People will see it, say we're going to release it, remove it in 118, and if people do come up with reasonable like objections, we can always move it backwards. Okay, you're right. I'm persuaded. All right. Is anyone unhappy with that, I should say? Okay. Rodrigo, custom config for etcd. Thank you, John, for that, by the way. Rodrigo, custom config for etcd using etcd manager. No way to do so currently.
Yeah, I figured out we didn't really have that when I broke my cluster this week in various funny ways. Learned way more about etcd than I wanted. I just wanted to confirm with you, Justin, there really is no way to configure etcd with etcd manager right now.
What do you want to What do you want to configure?
In this case was the max size for etcd. We hit the 2 gig limit when someone decided to double the size of my cluster in about 5 minutes, and the compaction didn't quite catch up with it.
Yes, because it is every 5 minutes. Okay. There is certainly, we're in the same boat where we need to expose options sort of individually, so we sort of manage them. There's no like generic cheat pass through. So we have a cheap pass through like on API server, right? We can pass any flag, and we don't have. So, but we don't have either one today.
So I was thinking of just digging through etcd manager code. Currently, it just looks at sets a bunch of env variables for the actual etcd process.
Yes.
I was thinking in just passing a key value pair to etcd manager, set it in the pod config so that it gets passed in as a env variable to the actual container, and etcd can grab that and pass it down.
Yes, it might actually get passed automatically. I don't.
It doesn't. I tested that because I manually edited the configs when I was having this issue.
Okay.
I ended up having to hard code things in and deploy my own version, which worked fine. But yeah,
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
I think that's reasonable as a parallel to like the flags where we have a sort of pass through that's not guaranteed compatible, and we effectively like allow you to specify things, give you control, and then if this is a common use case, we can where I'm sure there will be some, we can like identify the common patterns and expose them as managed fields that have more guarantees around them.
Yeah, I was going to just do it as simple key value pair with no actual checks on the data. The users
right, exactly. That's the great, like that is the, yeah, it's sort of the contract is like you can put in whatever you want, and it's sort of on you. Because you can, if etcd removes the envar or renames the envar, then it's on you.
Yep.
And just sort of like, I guess I would mirror the pod thing with env name and value, or would you do key value pairs? I don't know where we are today on that.
Yeah, I'd probably just do env name and value.
Env name and value. That sort of feels more consistent, so I like that. I just didn't know whether people would just rather have key value. Yeah, env name and value would make just feel like it feels less objectionable and like gives us an out.
Okay. Do we want to explicitly set that, or just key value pair and you can set whichever ones you want, or?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do we want to limit which ones folks can set, or just let them go at it?
I think I would imagine you should be able to set whatever envars you want. It'll get set in the etcd manager. I think we'll tell etcd manager to pass down at least a subset of them, whatever it's doing. And if there's a conflict, I don't know what we should do. I presume we should go on.
The way I was, sorry, I have to interrupt. The way I was reading through the code for etcd manager, I was going to set this as the last values, because you're also setting it as a key value pair, and if a user so chooses to override something that we're setting by default, it is again on their own.
That feels like consistent with what we do elsewhere, and it feels reasonable. It doesn't mean they can break things, but it will be surfaced very explicitly in the manifest. So
yeah, okay, sounds good. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going down the wrong path while doing this.
That's great. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I actually did, there's some things that landed in etcd manager recently. I don't see him here, but 343 was added by someone who's been doing a lot in there, but I want to say, anyway, so there is a new etcd manager release that will likely land or we'll try to put in fairly soon, but yeah, we should also get this in there as well.
Good.
Okay, next on the agenda, Hackman, support for Amazon Linux 2 is broken. Container SE Linux doesn't have the required deps anymore. The thing we thought would happen. What to do about it? You're muted. Sorry.
Sorry, I was on mute. So the thing is that we say that support is experimental. Right now, in theory, it could be made to work, like installing probably 10 package from CentOS, 10 packages.
And I'm sorry, this is Docker or Containerd, or both?
Container SE Linux, I think it's something required by SE Linux to make any of this to work.
Yeah, because it's for container. Okay, yeah, okay.
So it's, and the problem is not that one. The problem is that it's built only for CentOS and requires CentOS version dependencies. At some point, I think Amazon decided to drop the versioning from CentOS, so things don't work anymore. I mean,
how does EKS work? Does presumably this works on EKS? I imagine EKS must support Amazon Linux too, or else they'll have some harsh
they have
internal
their
words.
own version of Docker.
Oh wow, okay.
They build Docker, put it into a repo or something, and you can install it from extras. But I would feel very bad about having one more core OS like distro, where everything is like, hey, let's install it from them. And
can we install it from your, I know you have the PR open for tar GZ installation. Can we install it from there?
we could try. I didn't try to install on Amazon Linux to see if it passes any tests.
That I mean, the one of the big uses of tar-gz is that like when when the official distribution stops packaging for a particular repo, like a particular distro, so it feels similar.
So in theory, we can install Docker or Containerd. That's not a problem, but considering that they enable SE Linux probably also, I don't know which parts will work and which parts won't.
It's a good question. I think in my optimistic world, wearing my optimistic hat, maybe Containerd has notes on like how to run on an SE Linux.
I think it has, but I don't think anyone cares about Amazon Linux.
Okay, but hopefully the SE Linux configuration is not specific to Amazon Linux too.
They say to install container SE Linux, which is
yes,
CentOS, Red Hat, and well, these are the special ones that wanted their own distro.
Is there an issue or a PR that we can like brainstorm on?
I can create an issue with the exact error. And when we land the tar-gz PR or something, I can try it on Amazon Linux also.
That would be great. Yeah, and I'll try to get that PR landed, or I'll try to review that PR.
I addressed the comments.
I wonder if it's worth adding an issue on the AWS have a containers roadmap board as well for sort of any work relating to their sort of container support. So I wonder if it would be worth asking around there as to whether this is something they've come across.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea.
I think on their forums, everybody was trying to install previous versions of Docker and didn't work. The only advice that worked was to install their version of Docker.
Okay. Well, let's try to figure out what works with the tar-gz, and like I can't remember the Amazon Linux 2. I think you commented that like Amazon Linux 2 is currently like squatting on a different enum value, and it should just be broken onto its own, right?
Yes.
If we pretend it's CentOS, I think, unless you fixed that already.
I made it to pretend it's Red Hat.
Okay.
Not break CentOS, because we are also patching Red Hat to not use their own paid repos. You know, so okay. It's complicated.
Okay. All right. Yeah. If we can hash it on an issue, that'd be great. I think you. Thank you. You have the next item as well, which is the Kubernetes version used in CI. Do you want to talk us through that?
Yep. Sorry?
Sorry, I said, do you want to talk us through that, or I can read out?
So right now we are using Kubernetes masters to test our PRs and pretty much everything. To me, seems not such a good idea. Like, we are not developing Kubernetes features, and we are anyway at least 3 months behind Kubernetes. So would make sense to at least use stable latest, or I don't know, some stable something instead of the master branch. Maybe less annoying E2E.
Yeah, I think, so by way of history, we used to run kops pre-submits on every PR in KK. And it was sort of the way AWS testing for AWS was done. We're generally moving away in KK from the idea of testing on cloud providers on every PR, moving to periodics instead, and like more mocks and things like things like that. Precisely to get the same stability there. Like it was hard on users who'd be like, I don't know anything about AWS. Why is my test, like, I haven't touched AWS. Why is my test flaking on AWS? Or why is my test flaking on GCP? Or why is my test flaking on whatever else, like, scenario it is? Just because, like, when you have enough scenarios, it just happens. I agree with you that for most of our periodic tests, like, when we're testing the different scenarios, we probably do want stability. And so, like, moving back a little bit would be fine. I think we do also want, though, to catch when there's a regression, when there's a breaking change made in KK that breaks AWS, we want to know about it, or breaks kops, we want to know about it as soon as possible. So we want some periodics, ideally that run pretty fast, that are tied to the master branch. And it also gives some good signal on, like, you know, some of the tests that are in there are much flakier, so we can, like, but we don't, so we should have some, but I absolutely agree. If you want to back off a little bit on the like older versions, and well, not the older version, but yeah, I mean, the older versions don't need to be, well, whatever it is. If you want to back off a little bit, but we do, so that you have more stability, that seems like a reasonable approach. We do also want to know, we do want to give signal on the master branch as well. Or sorry, on the head of the branch as well. So for example, like if they're thinking of planning of cutting a new 1.16 release, like it would be nice to be able to tell them, yeah, go look at the kops, this particular kops job to see whether it passes in some scenario. It's not completely broken for kops, for example. But it doesn't.
Sounds like we should have the periodics on master, but the pre-submit should be on stable.
So there are no pre-submits. There are no KK pre-submits. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yes, sorry. Yes, and then there's the kops test as well. Yes. Well, but we also want to know if upstream breaks things. So it often happens that upstream will make a change that does break things.
Yes, so we should have periodics for that. But we don't need to block our PRs on that.
Okay, that seems reasonable.
So let's say we want CI latest or stable latest. There's a small difference. CI latest is, let's say, continuous integration build. Stable latest is the latest release, like right now is 1.8 alpha something.
Right. CI latest is basically head, as far as I know. Like it has to pass some tests, but not a lot of tests.
CI is whatever is in Kubernetes right now. If someone commits something now and breaks something, in theory it shouldn't pass. In practice,
they don't run any tests on AWS or GCE to block that. So
there was a case last week where some tests passed the tests or something was, and for 2-3 days it broke Kubernetes testing completely.
Yeah, I mean that is the downside of like not having everything in blocking jobs, right? But yeah. So for our periodics, we do want a periodic that runs against like as close to head on the master branch and on the release branches.
Have like latest bleeding edge master,
right?
And we can check if there is something that's not flaky, it's consistently breaking things.
And I think if you know, like I know that people are adding, you and Peter and others are adding like tests for like different scenarios. Those those. I don't have a particular preference on whether they should, or a particular view on whether they should be like more stable or not. And I think as John and you suggested, like the kops CI tests, I think it's fine for those to use, yeah, some, what did we say, like the release stable, the last stable release of Kubernetes, which will still be ahead of where we are, right? It will still be like, today it will be 1.18.0 alpha 1, I think. Oh, yeah, that's a different question. So it doesn't need to pin to master. And I don't know whether it should pin to like 1.18.0 alpha 1 right now or 1.17.1, I think is the latest true release. I don't know if anyone has a view on that.
I think we should use the latest alpha or latest not stable, but still a release.
Well, let's try that and see. I imagine like eventually, yeah, because if there's a terrible alpha, maybe they wouldn't necessarily do another alpha, but so we don't want to shut down our tree, but let's try it and see how it goes, because that gives a.
If we get a terrible alpha, we can back that off.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we lost, did we lose Hackman? Yes, I think we did. All right, so let's assume, we'll give him a minute to see if he comes back. But I think that's what he was asking for anyway. I don't know, but yeah, so we'll see if he comes back. But I think that's, Peter, do you want to talk us through the next topic about CI?
Yes. I posted a link to the test grid. We added a bunch of jobs for different distributions. Pac-Man helped out with that. And we identified a few issues, got those fixed. So now CentOS 7 needed a newer AMI for the newer instance types, NVMe, ENA. We have the RHEL tests passing Ubuntu 16 and 18. And we added CoreOS and FlatCar as well. So those are all under test now. We also added older Kubernetes versions for what we support. This is where we identified that 1.9 is broken. I was talking to the SIG release folks a couple days ago, and the stable 1, stable 2, stable 3 markers that they use have been too problematic, and they want to switch to more version-specific markers. So I'm going to update those to be K8s 1.16, 1.17, 1.18, and I'll use the latest stable stuff that we just talked about. And then we're talking about adding new jobs to test core DNS, and as well as the remaining CNI plugins that we don't have tests for. That's kind of our update.
Wow, that is super impressive. Thank you.
This is awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And I have a little theory that the next item is going to deal with some of the flakiness. So it'll be interesting to see whether that theory proves right. Oh, sorry. So Hackman, you dropped for a moment, and I think we agreed. We basically said what you were going to do. We were basically going to have the RCI is going to be on the latest. The kops CI is going to run against the latest release version of the latest tagged version of Kubernetes. Maybe that's the correct word. So at the moment, it'd be 1.18.0.
Okay, so stable latest. I can
stable-ish, but yeah, the last we were debating like 1.17.1 versus 1.18.0 alpha 1 right now, but we went with a more aggressive 1.18.0 alpha 1, but still a fixed version that shouldn't change too much. And if something goes wrong, we can tweak it.
There are some special tags in some repo that the testing guys are using. This
cool.
Okay,
maybe they have a real name for it. It'd be good to get a name. We are running low on time, so I'm going to try to rush us through the last 3 things we have on our agenda and leave 1 minute for the release planning, I guess. Hackman, you suggested changing the default instance types, which I think is a good idea that I think had a lot of +1s and LGTMs on. I think we just wanted to sort of, I guess actually this is a different topic.
No, that's the one, I think.
Well, I think there was your PR was your PR going to change it to T3 as first or not? I think that was the question in my mind.
Sorry?
Did you put T3 first
Yes,
in the list?
T3 first.
Ah, you did. Okay. And T3 is the one that can cost more. Is T3 unlimited or is T3 not unlimited?
It is unlimited by default. Anyone that uses AWS and wants to do something work related would know about instances. And
Yes.
when you do something that you want to do work on, you choose a better instance than T something. That's just for testing CI and
my concern is more actually in the other direction. My concern is more just the idea that like people might run up bigger bills than they're expecting with the sort of unlimited.
If they, well, most people that would use it for experimenting would get smaller bills. Those that want to use it for more specific jobs, they tend to choose their own instances carefully because they know it costs them. I doubt anyone would choose to use our defaults, you know?
Okay, I think that's, so if, I know we haven't started the release notes doc, but this is one that definitely needs to go into the release notes. And so why don't we put it in there and just sort of highlight that? Because I think you raise a good point that if you're not stress testing, it will be cheaper. It should be cheaper. So that's good for those people, and people that want more performance are going to choose their instance type anyway.
So should I add the release notes here or create a different PR and create the release notes?
Whichever one you prefer. We just need someone to create we need someone to start creating release notes. Like once we have the doc, it'd be great if, in general, it would be good if each of the PRs had the release note in it, so we could like discuss them together.
Okay, then I will add it here and start it, because we also have to add a lot of other stuff like containerd and.
Awesome, thank you.
No problem.
Okay, and then you have the next item as well, Hackman, which is once containerd tar support is merged, we should probably do a similar thing for Docker.
I meant the moving all the dependencies or most of them to packages and not having them with each release. This makes it easy to have one targz per release instead of per distro.
Yes. The logic behind putting the package dependencies is that if you were not installing Docker, right, then you wouldn't need to like pull in the, so we sort of keep the, you wouldn't necessarily need to install those other system packages, OS packages. So by putting them next to each other, then we sort of don't just end up with this big list of packages where no one really knows what they're for. That's yeah, it's not, yes. There aren't many people that don't install containerd, for example.
In theory, it's true, but in practice, they pretty much have similar dependencies.
I think that's true. I think, okay. I think also simplicity is good. And installing a package is not exactly a massive deal.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, we should do that. I think that'd be, anyone disagree? Okay. Simpler, better. Peter, an interesting thing about file system state.
Yeah, this is a very old PR, almost 1,000 PRs old. Basically adding support for a file system state store, which would not be used in practice, only used in CI environments. As a read-only process, basically the workflow would be you'd copy your real state store down to a local directory. You'd point your kops binary at this local state store with whatever changes you're going to make, whether it's a change to the cluster manifest or a new version of kops, and then you're able to do a kops, replace and kops update, and it'll allow you to preview changes without changing any files in the state store. Because right now, if you update kops and then run kops update, it'll update the files in the state store, even though it hasn't updated your cloud provider resources, which means new instances that are launched are going to be pulling down new versions of files, even though you haven't actually ran kops update. Yes. So
I guess the two questions I would have is, should we either, well, the one question, should we feature flag or add a warning here, I guess would be my question.
yeah, I think either of those would be appropriate.
Well, I'm not sure why, because you have to explicitly change your state store anyway. Yeah,
But, like,
and
just
this would
like-
be helpful for us as well. I mean, we have S3 buckets just for temporary state stores.
Okay.
Our flow is we have our own cluster spec. We then do a kops create cluster dry run into a temporary state store, delete the state store, and then take the resulting manifest, modify them, and then do a replace.
Okay. It sounds like we should get this in there. I don't know whether, yeah, I agree. I can't imagine whether anyone is going to do this by mistake, but
If they do, it won't work, and they'll stop doing it.
yeah, that's.
I can add a warning message when people use it, saying, "Warning: this isn't going to work for
It would be
real
nice to be able to
clusters."
see it, right? Like, I just worry about, like, I think if you export the variable, I don't think we have any way to look to know. We'd have to actually, like, ask, like, did you set your kops state store to a file? I don't know, maybe that's not true because you'd see, like, the URLs. That's, all right, but yes, I think we should, sounds like there's valid use cases. We should merge this. We might need to add a warning later or a message.
Okay, I'll take care of that. Thank you.
Thanks. And we can merge this and then, I don't know, I guess you can add to that. Well, anyway, yes. We are at time. I copied the release plan for the previous 2 weeks into this week, which is basically the headline, I think, is the 1.16.0 beta 1 per John's list. And then ideally we can roll to 1.17.0 alpha 2.
I think people still expect 1.15.
Yes, and we can also do, I think we have a bunch of PRs that are queued up, and we should do a 1.15 and a 1.14 patch release for those. But I sort of am using the beta 1 as the driver, because that's sort of, whatever we get into the beta 1, we can then say, like, do we cherry pick it back? That's sort of the way I think about it. But yeah, we're still, until we release 1.16.0, we still do cherry picks back. So we definitely still have to keep 1.15 going with any important functionality.
Okay. By the way, sorry,
I should say bug fixes. Sorry, not functionality.
We are getting many questions on Slack, like, when's the next release? When's the next release? When's the next release? It's like a daily question. Maybe it would be a good idea to have a policy for this, like, say 1 week after the Kubernetes releases or something. Not sure if possible, but would address the questions.
I think we're aiming to have an alpha or beta released at the same time as the Kubernetes stable release, so the .0. And then I think, so in other words, when 1.18.0 lands, I very much hope we have 1.18.0 beta available.
I was not meaning this, like, just saying that our releases happen in the week after the Kubernetes one. Whatever happens is that week. If not, they happen a month from then. So
oh, I see what you're saying.
Something like that, so that people know when to expect, like, can I get it now? No.
Why don't we, we're overtime already. Why don't we tell people to come in 2 weeks and discuss this topic, in general, and we can, like, just keep going. I think also if we, like, make more progress on the releases, that tends to answer some of these questions.
No problem. Thank you.
Thanks. If there's anything else, if everyone needs to get on with their day, I can see people rotating in their chairs, looking at the lunchtime. All right. I wish everyone a very happy 2 weeks, and see you soon.
See you, everyone.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye.